suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
We're working to connect a region of over 600 cultural bridges between our lands.
Hello, I'm Alma Angeles. Welcome to ASEAN in Focus. We're coming to you live from Manila in Vietnam.
Hi,
Hello,
I'm
Eliana.
Eliana Faith. Yes, hello, Alma. I'm Eliana Faith Sebastian from EBC Vietnam Bureau, giving you the news in the dynamic ASEAN region.
On today's headlines,
Multilateral cooperation.
Mr. Charles Michel, President of the European Council, talks about the strong Europe-Asia relationship from his address at the 13th Asia-Europe meeting, or ASEM 13 video conference.
Asian markets and oil prices sank while safe havens rallied on Friday over fears of a new COVID variant that scientists warn could be more infectious than Delta and even be more resistant to vaccines, dealing a blow to the global recovery.
French Foreign Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian meets with his Indonesian counterpart, Retno Marsudi, in Jakarta to strengthen a strategic partnership agreement that includes bolstering defense ties. France is regrouping in the Indo-Pacific after the collapse of a multi-million-dollar submarine deal with Australia.
I think that
Binibining Pilipinas celebrated the double victory homecoming of two of its recently crowned queens, Cinderella Obenita, Miss Intercontinental 2021, and Maureen Montaigne, Miss Globe 2021, at the Novotel Araneta City.
First in our news, the 13th Asia-Europe meeting, or ASEM, took place on November 25 and 26 today via video conference. Here's Mr. Charles Michel, President of the European Council, on a strong Europe-Asia relationship from his address at the 13th Asia-Europe meeting, or ASEM 13 video conference. Let's listen in.
Multilateral cooperation and a very strong Europe-Asia relationship in particular is crucial for our global recovery. COVID-19 has impacted every country and region of the world and every aspect of our lives, and it shows how interconnected we are. We believe it's important for all ASEAN partners to work together to build back better in a more green, digital, sustainable, and inclusive way. Going forward, we, in Europe, we want to expand our engagement with you, with Asia. Another major area for our cooperation is connectivity. We would like to advance ASEM's work on a sustainable and rules-based approach to connectivity, built on transparency and trust. The pillar of all European Union's actions will remain our commitment to universal democratic rights and fundamental freedoms.
The summit brings together heads of state or government of 51 European and Asian countries, representatives of the European Union, and the Secretary General of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, to discuss the theme of strengthening multilateralism for shared growth. Cambodia currently holds the rotating ASEM presidency, and Charles Michel, President of the European Council, and Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission, represent the EU at the summit. Janez Janša, Prime Minister of Slovenia, represents the rotating EU Council presidency. Josep Borrell, EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, also takes part in the meeting.
The Philippine and Korean governments marked 30 years of development partnership on Thursday, with Seoul's official development assistance or ODA to Manila reaching 2.1 billion US dollars to date. From 7.24 million in 1991, Korea's annual contributions have increased to around 127.75 million in 2021. Let's take a look.
Over the last 30 years, our cooperation has continued to evolve both qualitatively and quantitatively. And currently, Korea is the second largest development partner country for the Philippines. Just giving two numbers, the volume of financial resources contributed during the last 30 years, I think it amounts to 2.1 billion US dollars. And annual contributions have increased from 7 million US dollars in 1991, 30 years ago, to 128 million US dollars in this year. I think it's an 18th-fold increase. Qualitatively, the partnership started with public administration and expanded to all different sectors, including agriculture, infrastructure, climate change, disaster risk reduction and science, technology, innovation, and of course, health. No? Our partnership is making a rather real difference in the daily lives of the people here. For one example, we held an essay contest last September, October, and we heard many moving and inspiring stories from the participants of the KOICA capacity building program or from people who have benefited from our development projects. And the third point and last is that against this backdrop, of course, during the last couple of years, we have to keep our focus on how to respond to COVID. And what we did is a contribution of roughly 10.6 billion pesos, which includes over 500,000 doses of AstraZeneca vaccines, 34 refrigerated trucks for vaccine transportation, and another 4 trucks for goods that we will need for vaccination, and 200 million US dollars in budget support for vaccine procurement and other COVID response, among other things. We are pursuing joint development projects with the United States of America, specifically between KOICA and USAID, to enhance climate resilience and address ocean plastic pollution. We also made efforts to explore ways to strengthen our partnership through our participation in webinars with companies such as SM Supermalls or RISE Philippines. And we are jointly organizing with the GGGI a talk series on climate. And of course, we are striving to strengthen our partnership with all international organizations.
Manila's 3 decades of development ties started in 1991 when officials from the Philippines were invited to participate in training programs in Korea, which then expanded to other areas of cooperation such as agriculture, infrastructure, climate change, disaster risk reduction, health and science, technology, and innovation.
Also this week, President Duterte said he was disgusted with the actuation of the Chinese Coast Guard vessels, which blocked and fired water cannons on two Philippine boats transporting supplies to military personnel in Ayungin or Second Thomas Shoal on November 16. During his attendance at the Association of Southeast Asian Nations or ASEAN-China Special Summit via video conference on Monday, the president said the South China Sea issue is a strategic challenge that cannot be solved by force.
We are friends and close neighbors. Our destinies are tied to each other, and geography has made it irrevocably so. Allow me then to speak with candor. The South China Sea is a strategic challenge that cannot be solved by force. We all want to benefit from the bounties of the vital maritime domain. We agree that peace and stability are a precondition for this to happen. And we all pledge adherence to the rule of law, including the 1982 United Nations Conventions on the Law of the Sea. Let us then walk our talk and move forward, acta non verba, which means deeds, not words. Let us exercise utmost restraint and avoid escalation of tension. And most importantly, let us earnestly work towards the peaceful resolution of disputes in accordance with international law. We abhor the recent event in the Ayungin Shoal and view with grave concern other similar development. This does not speak well of the relations between our nations and partnership. UNCLOS and the 2016 Arbitral Award provide legal clarity for all countries that subscribe to the majesty of the law. These two landmark documents are beacons pointing to us a just and fair solution of our disputes. We must realize these legal tools to ensure that South China Sea remains a sea of peace, stability, and prosperity.
The renewed tensions over the South China Sea have drawn international concern. The United States on Friday warned China that an armed attack against Philippine public vessels would invite a U.S. response under its treaty obligations to the Southeast Asian nation. The European Union, meanwhile, also called on all parties to respect freedom of navigation and overflight in the South China Sea. And at the summit, Malaysian Prime Minister Ismail Sabri Yaakob warned against actions that could further complicate the situation and escalate tensions in the area.
The Duterte administration has been consistent in safeguarding the country's sovereignty in the West Philippine Sea. National Security Advisor and National Task Force for the West Philippine Sea Chair Hermogenes Esperon Jr. said. Esperon said the government is working to enhance stations in the area and doing its best to protect resources in the West Philippine Sea. Let's watch this.
Makikita dyan ang nakalagay na boundary ng EEZ, Exclusive Economic Zone. Nakita mo na napakalayo talaga ng mga isla ng Ayungin at Mischief Reef. Mahigit na 600 nautical miles yan, samantalang 130 knot yung ating Ayungin, 120 dahil mas malayo ang mist. So paano naging trespassing tayo dyan? Dapat ang namamayani dyan ay ang international order na tulad ng United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea, which came into ratified in 1984 and came into effect in 1994. Signatory dyan ang China. ang ASEAN at mga iba pang mga. Kaya dapat na sumunod ang China sa mga international law. We consider that as a form of harassment. Although sabi ng kanilang ambassador ay dinodocument lang nila. Kaya silang karapatan na pumunta dyan sa loob ng ayungin, lapit pa dyan. Sila ang trespassing. Ang President Xi Jinping ay sinasabi niyang we do not bully other nations. At ang kanyang sinasabi ay is development and in the South China Sea. Kakaiba sa nangyayari sa baba. At sa katunayan, ang ating Pangulo ay kanya namang sinabi sa kanyang statement doon sa ASEAN-China Special Summit na kanyang kinukondina ang ginawa na doon sa ating resupply. At quote, if I may quote Mr. Rocky, ang sinabi ng Pangulo, the recent event in the Ayungin Shoal is grave concern. Other similar development. This does not speak well of the relations between our partnership. By saying there is simply no other way out of this colossal problem but the rule of law. Yan ang panapos na pangungusap ng ating Pangulo. But we want to reassure our esteemed lawmakers that the administration led by the President is doing its best. And as the chairman of the National Task Force for the West Philippines, I can say na is involved in protecting our sovereignty.
In other news, Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida hosted his Vietnamese counterpart, Phan Minh Chinh, in Tokyo and announced that Japan will supply an additional 1.54 million doses of COVID-19 vaccination to the Southeast Asian country. They also confirmed the two governments will continue cooperating to ensure freedom of navigation and overflight in the South China Sea. Let's listen in.
初の外国首脳として陳首相を迎えてきたことを非常に嬉しく思います。ベトナムは自由で開かれたインド太平洋を実現していく上で要となる大切なパートナーです。第一にコロナ対策における協力です。ベトナムで依然としてワクチンが不足する中、今回日本から新たに154万回分のワクチンを供与することとし、明日、陳首相の帰国の便でベトナムへ運ばれます。
Ba là tiếp tục tăng cường hợp tác, nâng cao năng lực y tế, nhất là y tế dự phòng, sản xuất vaccine, thuốc điều trị COVID-19. Cảm ơn Ngài Thủ tướng đã quyết định viện trợ thêm hơn 1,5 triệu liều vaccine COVID-19 cho Việt Nam. Tiếp tục quan tâm hỗ trợ công dân, doanh nghiệp của mỗi nước, cải thiện điều kiện sống, an sinh xã hội, tạo điều kiện thuận lợi, phát huy vai trò của cộng đồng hơn 450.000 người Việt Nam. 6 là tái khẳng định tầm quan trọng của bảo đảm hòa bình, an ninh, an toàn, tự do hàng hải và hàng không tại Biển Đông.
According to a report from the Japan Times, Prime Minister Fumio Kishida and his Vietnamese counterpart, Phan Minh Chinh, agreed to step up security cooperation between their countries while sharing serious concerns over aggressive moves in regional waters in a veiled reference to China's growing assertiveness. Both countries are involved in the territorial disputes with China. China claims the Japanese-controlled Senkaku Islands in the East China Sea, while Vietnam has disputes in the South China Sea, where Beijing has expansive claims. Meeting the previous day, Defense Minister Nobuo Kishi and his Vietnamese counterpart, General Phan Van Giang, agreed to strongly oppose unilateral attempts to change the status quo in regional waters without explicitly naming China.
Asian markets and oil prices sank while safe havens rallied on Friday over fears of a new COVID variant that scientists warn could be more infectious than Delta and even be more resistant to vaccines, dealing a blow to the global recovery. Let's take a look.
It will become a variant with a Greek name, probably tomorrow, has very high number of mutations with a concern for predicted immune evasion and transmissibility.
And here again, we see a lot of mutations in the spike protein that might affect how well the virus is neutralized. But we also see some mutations that are well known from other variants of concern and variants of interest. And they give us concern that these might give the virus enhanced transmissibility.
The B11529 strain has been blamed for a surge in fresh cases in South Africa and has already been cropped up in Hong Kong, with the World Health Organization due to hold a meeting later in the day to decide if it should be designated a variant of interest or of concern. The finding of the South African variant has led Britain and Israel to ban all travel from the country and 5 others in Southern Africa as officials look to prevent it from taking hold in populations and spreading quickly. The WHO said early analysis shows that this variant has a large number of mutations that require and will undergo further study. The news has hammered confidence in Asian markets, which were already under pressure as traders prepared for the Federal Reserve to start tightening its monetary policy to fend off surging inflation. On equity markets, Tokyo dived more than 2%, while Hong Kong, Sydney, Singapore, and Wellington were more than 1% lower.
Meanwhile, the Philippines is using metrics based on World Health Organization standards to help in its border control, Health Secretary Maria Rosario Vergeire said on Saturday. And this assurance was made amid the coronavirus surge in Europe, which is now back at a COVID-19 pandemic epicenter. Vergeire said the system Manila is using is also derived from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control, which monitors the incidence rate of COVID-19 in other countries. Take a look.
We are using a metric or a system kung saan we have adopted this with the Center for Disease Control ng United States and also with the WHO standards, kung saan meron ho tayong ginagamit na tinitignan natin yung incidence rate ng mga bawat bansa na ito, tinitignan natin yung 2-week growth rate din nila, tinitignan natin yung testing capacity nila. So with this kind of analysis that we have adopted, nakikita ho natin kung ano yung mga bansa na dapat nire-restrict natin. That's why we have green, yellow, and red countries. So sa ngayon, yan po ang pinapatupad natin, and we are assured na ito pong ating classification na ito is helping the country in our border control.
At present, the Faroe Islands and the Netherlands have been placed under the Philippines' red list.
Expecting an influx of international arrivals in the country in the coming weeks, the Department of Health seeks to ensure implementation of strict border controls and close monitoring of COVID trends, including variants of interests and variants of concerns. Let's take a look.
Increasing case trends seen across Europe and North America. These countries have loosened restrictions and minimum public health standard requirements as early as June of this year in lieu of their high vaccination coverage. Historically, case increases in Asia and the Philippines occur a few months after peaks in Western countries. Close monitoring of other country experiences and variants of interest and variants of concerns, and ensuring border control as influx of international arrivals expected in the coming weeks. Minimum public health standards adherence must be strengthened as we increase mobility to ensure the risk of transmission remains low here in our country. Of this, 1.98% were positive for the Alpha variant, 3.56% were positive for the Beta variant. and 84.19% were positive for the Delta variant. Also, of the total sequence samples, incoming international travelers comprised of 1,179 or 5.73%. We are doing retrospective sampling to trace the beginnings of the Delta variant, introduction to the country, as well as the earliest cases.
There said that local government units and business establishments must also ensure proper implementation of minimum public health standards and safety seal standards, especially in areas where 3Cs or closed spaces, crowded places, and close contact settings will most likely be present. The DOH on Monday said that 93.49% of those who died from COVID-19 were not fully vaccinated. With this, Vergara stressed that vaccination will be the key to reduce the number of deaths.
In other news, French Foreign Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian met with his Indonesian counterpart Retno Marsudi in Jakarta to strengthen a strategic partnership agreement that includes bolstering defense ties. France is regrouping in the Indo-Pacific after the collapse of a multi-billion-dollar submarine deal with Australia. Take a look.
Je veux d'abord vous dire l'attachement de la France à la relation qui la lie à l'Indonésie et qui, depuis 10 ans maintenant, a pris la forme d'un partenariat stratégique que nous allons encore renforcer dans des secteurs clés comme la défense ou les affaires maritimes, notamment à travers la création d'un dialogue maritime bilatéral dont la première session se tiendra au mois de janvier prochain. Nous signons aujourd'hui un plan d'action pour le renforcement de ce partenariat stratégique. 10 ans, oui, je le rappelle, car l'Indonésie a été le premier pays d'Asie avec lequel nous avons choisi de pousser à ce point notre engagement, et le bien fondé de ce choix ne s'est jamais démenti. Cette relation...
Transisi energi bukan merupakan opsi, namun merupakan sebuah keniscayaan. Oleh karena itu, kolaborasi diperlukan untuk mendukung proses transisi tersebut, antara lain melalui investasi dan teknologi transfer. Dalam kaitan ini, saya sangat mengapresiasi komitmen Perancis untuk mendukung pendanaan bagi proyek transisi energi di Indonesia sebesar 500 juta euro.
Paris was furious after Australia ditched the submarine deal in September, saying it had been given no warning that Canberra was negotiating a new defense pact with the U.S. and Britain, which left France rethinking its alliances in the Indo-Pacific. French Foreign Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian met with his Indonesian counterpart, Retno Marsudi, to sign an action plan that he said will strengthen the two countries' strategic partnership and improve ties in defense and maritime affairs. During the two-day visit, Le Drian also met with Indonesia's Defense Minister Prabowo Subianto, who leads Jakarta's ongoing negotiations for the acquisition of 36 Rafale fighter jets, but no deal was announced. Jakarta has also shown interest in procuring submarines, corvettes, and other military equipment as tensions with Beijing continue to simmer. Australia said it had decided to obtain nuclear-powered submarines in a new defense alliance named AUKUS with the U.S. and Britain to counter a rising China, which has been building up its own navy and testing decades of U.S. military dominance across Asia. France has since looked to bolster alliances with its longtime partners, Japan and India, but has also turned its attention to Southeast Asian nations, including Indonesia, for deeper strategic ties in the Pacific region. And good news in the Southeast Asian nation of Malaysia, where the economy is seeing an upturn. Alfred Balmes joins us live from Kuala Lumpur. Hello, Alfred.
Hi, Alma. Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
According to the Malaysia Statistics Department, the economy is anticipated to see healthier prospects in the near future as the leading index, LI, rebounded 6.6% in September 2021 against negative 2.3% in August. In a statement yesterday, Chief Statistician Datuk Seri Muhammad Hussein Mahidin said the rebound of the LI can be attributed to the relaxation of economic restriction in line with the transitional phases of the National Recovery Plan. The LI recorded an increase of 0.6% to 110.5 points in September as compared to 109.8 points in the same month of the preceding year after the decrease of 2.3 in August. The expansion of LI was primarily backed by the increment in real imports of semiconductors, driven by encouraging demand of electronic integrated circuit. Correspondingly, Muhammad Usser said the LI grew to 4% based on monthly comparison. He added the growth was underpinned significantly by a better performance in real imports of the other basic precious and other non-ferrous metal that increased 1.6% and real imports of semiconductors 1.1%. Overall, Muhammad Usser said the LI showed a better performance with anticipated a healthier economic prospect in the near future. The NRP was announced by former Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin in June in a four-phase exit strategy for the COVID-19 pandemic that was implemented when the country went into a lockdown in May this year. The phase transition were generally determined by how quickly the population could be vaccinated and how effectively each state could bring down the number of daily reported infection. It tracks real money supply, the Bursa Malaysia Industrial Index, real imports of the semiconductors, real imports of the other basic precious and other non-ferrous metals, number of housing units approved, expected sale value of manufacturing, and number of new companies registered. Muhammad also said the performance of the coincident index, which reflects the current state of the economy, showed a better year-on-year growth by registering 0.3% in September from a drop of 1.6% recorded in August. Muhammad Usser added the monthly change of CI increased 3.9% in the said month, supported by all CI components, with the largest positive from the volume index of retail trade, 1.5%. Back to you, Alma.
Thank you very much, Alfred, for that update. Stay safe. See you back next week.
Likewise, live reporting from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. This is Alfred Balmes. We live in interesting times.
And the news continues here on ASEAN in Focus. Eliana and I will be back right after this.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Mailalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa New Era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
Welcome back to ASEAN in Focus. When Dung Nguyen left Vietnam to work abroad, the 37-year-old says he'd been assured he would be employed by a German company in Serbia, only to have his passport taken away upon arrival at a Chinese-run factory where conditions were dire. Some 500 Vietnamese workers employed on the construction of a factory in Serbia where Chinese tire company Linglong went on strike. And human rights group says the workers are victims of human trafficking for the purpose of labor exploitation. Let's take a look.
Và bên phía môi giới Việt Nam có nói rằng là chủ nhận lao động của mình bên phía Serbia là người Đức, nhưng thực chất khi bọn mình sang đến nơi thì lại là người tiếp nhận lao động của Việt Nam sang là người Trung Quốc. Cho nên cái đấy anh em rất bất ngờ, vì từ trước đến nay nếu biết chủ Trung Quốc thì bọn mình không sang. Nên sang đến nơi thì mọi thứ nó khác hoàn toàn so với phía môi giới Việt Nam nói. Sang đến nơi là điện nước là không có. Vào mùa lạnh âm đến 1 đến 2 độ, nước nóng không có mà dùng. Và anh em đi làm về rất vất vả, muốn tắm nhưng không có nước mà tắm, cho nên đành để vậy mà đi ngủ. Còn hộ chiếu hôm mọi người xuống sân bay thì phía Trung Quốc người ta thu lại hết, không nói về nguyên nhân gì mà thu hộ chiếu của mọi người cả, chỉ biết là phía Trung Quốc người ta thu và đến bây giờ không trả lại nữa. Có anh em ở đây mấy tháng rồi cũng không chịu được sinh hoạt mới ăn uống ở đây, mấy công việc đây, cho nên bỏ trốn các nước khác nhưng đều bị bắt quay lại trả về phía công ty. Nhưng phía công ty cũng không tiếp nhận lại số người bỏ trốn đấy, người ta đuổi luôn. Và cái đáng nói là lúc đuổi một số người bỏ trốn đấy nhưng phía công ty cũng không trả lại các hộ chiếu cho những người bỏ trốn. Cho nên những người đấy không biết là sẽ đi đâu và về đâu. Rất khó khăn cho anh em người Việt Nam ở bên cộng đồng Serbia này. Còn anh em ở trong này không khác thì đi tù, chỉ hơn đi tù cái là được đi lại một chút thôi, chứ không được đi xa. Nếu đi xa trong vòng 1 hay 2 ngày hay là như thế nào đấy, nó cũng cho là đi bỏ trốn sang nơi khác về, nó không tiếp nhận nữa. Còn tình hình trong này anh em ăn ở rất thiếu thốn, không có một cái gì cho anh em sinh hoạt. Sinh hoạt thì nó không được thoải mái về nước non và điện đóm cho nó. Đấy là những cái gì mình trải qua trong này thì mình chia sẻ, vì nó không có nhiều thời gian, sợ nó ảnh hưởng đến mọi người sống trong này, cho nên mình chỉ làm đến tầm này thôi.
The situation at the factory and the alleged deception used to lure employees has made headlines in Serbia after Nguyen and hundreds of other Vietnamese went on strike this week. The strike that started on Wednesday was a rare show of defiance by laborers at a Chinese-backed enterprise in the country. Beijing has invested billions in Serbia and neighboring Balkan countries in recent years, hoping to expand its economic footprint in Central Europe. Serbia has been quick to cash in on China's interest as it seeks to court a range of investors amid the ongoing tug-of-war between the East and West over the influence in the Balkans. But Belgrade has repeatedly been accused of giving Chinese-owned companies a free hand in how they run their operations. Critics from civil society, human rights groups, and in the media say the government has turned a blind eye to environmental concerns and potential human rights violations. The Vietnamese workers were employed to build the factory for the Chinese tire company Linglong in the small northern city of Zrenjanin, considered a centerpiece of Beijing-backed investment in Serbia.
In other news this week, at least 15 people drowned on Sunday while crossing a flooded causeway in Myanmar to reach a Buddhist temple for a festival. Rescue workers told AFP the tragedy unfolded as thousands of worshippers tried to reach the Kiek Nay Pagoda, which lies on a rocky outcrop around 3 kilometers off the coast near the town of Tan Bu Zayat in southern Mon State. Local officials said some died when they tried to cross the poorly marked causeway, which is only around 4 meters wide, while the tide was too high. More drowned later when they were jostled from the crowded walkway into the sea. Ko Kiao Tu, an emergency responder from Tan Bu Zayat, told AFP that 15 bodies had been taken to hospital and 3 people, as of this report Sunday, were still missing.
Electric appliance pioneer Dyson said Thursday it is dropping a Malaysian supplier following an audit of its labor practices, the latest company in the country to face such concerns. The Southeast Asian nation is home to millions of low-paid migrants who mainly work in manufacturing, agriculture, and construction, but allegations have been mounting about mistreatment. The United States has barred imports from several Malaysian latex glove manufacturers and palm oil companies in recent times over concerns about migrants' poor working and living conditions. The latest company to come under scrutiny is electronics manufacturer ATA IMS, a supplier to British inventor James Dyson's company, famous for its bagless vacuum cleaners. Dyson said it commissioned an audit of ATA and, after receiving the results last month, demanded immediate action be taken. The firm did not reveal the findings. As well as the audit, Dyson said it was informed of a whistleblower making allegations about unacceptable actions by ATA staff and asked a law firm to investigate. It came after a prominent migrant rights activist lodged a complaint with U.S. authorities about allegations of forced labor at the company, including unethical recruitment practices and inadequate working and living conditions.
All qualified beneficiaries of the government's 1 billion peso fuel subsidy program are set to receive their cash cards and one-time grant by December, according to an official of the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board. In a Laging Handa briefing, LTFRB National Capital Region Director Zona Rosetta Mayo said about 85,000 out of 136,000 beneficiaries of the program, operators of public utility jeepneys, have cash cards. Through the previous PPP or Pantawid Pasada program, let's listen in.
Now, sa tala po natin, meron ho tayong 136,000 po na qualified beneficiaries. Ang listahan po na ito ay kompleto na po nang galing sa iba't ibang regions po at sa central office. So, identified na po sila at 85,000 po out of this 136,000 beneficiaries ay may active na pong account sa Land Bank, kung kaya't yun po ay lalagyan na lang po noong ating fuel subsidy amounting to 7,200 pesos per unit. Yung remaining po na around 50,000 po, yun po ay kasalukuyang ginagawa na po ng Land Bank noong cards. At sa mga darating na araw po ay maglalabas na ho tayo ng schedule kung saan ho nakalagay ang pangalan at servicing branch kung saan ho nila kukunin ang kanilang card. Kung mapapansin nyo, wide ho ang ating distribution ng cards sa iba't ibang regions po, ay iba't ibang branches din po ng Land Bank ang ating na-identify para maiwasan din po na dumugin po ang ating mga Land Bank branches para sa releasing po ng ating PPP cards. Ito po ay fuel subsidy po, kaya reiterate, pinapaalalahanan po natin ang ating mga beneficiaries na ito pong nakaload po sa inyong cards ay maaari lamang pong gamitin sa pag-purchase po ng fuel. Hindi po ito po pwedeng gamitin i-withdraw sa ATM or gamitin pambili ng ibang gamit. At ito po ay strictly fuel subsidy or para lang ho pambayad ng mga binili ho ninyong krudo. Now, kung meron hong paglabag, wag naman po sana, i-report po sa amin yan ng LBP dahil makikita ho sa transaction history po ng kanilang mga accounts kung ito po.
An organized global syndicate is behind the recent spate of spam text messages offering fake and too good to be true job opportunities amid the pandemic, the National Privacy Commission, or NPC, said on Tuesday. At the Laging Handa briefing, Privacy Commissioner Raymond Liboro said these messages are just tricking the public into giving out personal information, including their bank account details. Let's take a look.
Pinag-uusapan natin sir, is an organized international or global na sindikato ang gumagawa nito at gumagamit ng mga numero na nakuha po nila sa marahil sa ibang paraan po. Malalaking database po ang ginagamit nila dito. Maaaring nanggaling po yan doon sa mga dati hong na-breach o na-hack. Ginagalugan na rin natin yung dark web dito, yung Secraki, upang malaman kung meron nga pong nagtitrade nitong mga numbers ng mga Pilipino dyan at ginagamit po dito. So although nababanggit mo nga yung contact tracing, lagi din natin sinasabihan yung mga nangongolekta po niya ng pangalagaan po yan. Posibilidad yan sa ibang sabi ko nga magamit po ng hindi tama, pero in this particular case nakikita po natin pagkat libo-libo kundi 100,000 Pilipino po nakakakuha nitong mga text na ito ay napakahirap pong gawin niya kung isa-isahin niyo yung mga contact tracing forms or health declaration forms. But still, gusto nating sabihin again, itong mga nangangasiwa ng ating contact tracing na pangalagaan din ang mga numero niyan. Pero meron po tayong mga data protection officers sa mga telcos at gusto ko lang sabihin, pinatawag din namin sila upang ipaliwanag nga kung paano nagagamit itong network or telco infrastructure para mapadala itong mga spam na ito. At mananagot po ang sino man, lalo na po ang mga telco, kung ang mga numero na ating pong ipinagkatiwala sa kanila ay hindi ginagamit po sa hindi otorisadong paraan. Yes, definitely. Ito pong cellphone numbers po natin ay ito po ay kinukonsidera na personal information, personal data. At ang pagprotekta po nito ay sakop po ng Data Privacy Act. Tulad nga po, lalo-lalo na ho sa sitwasyon na ito na nandudulot ng hindi mabuti, na napaka-tangible, sabi nga nitong kapahamakan na maaaring gawin kapag ito nga po ay ginagamit sa mga scam. So tayo po again ay mag-iingat. Huwag ho basta-basta binibigay ang ating personal information tulad po ng mga mobile numbers natin. Huwag ho tayo basta-basta pumipirma at uma-agree, nagko-consent kapag hinihingan po tayo ng mga personal data po natin. Dahil yan po sa aming namomonitor din ay maaring sumasang-ayo kayo na gawing public itong mga impormasyon na yan po ay nai-scrape, nakakaayod po sa.
And finally, in our news, Binibining Pilipinas celebrated the double victory homecoming of two of its recently crowned queens, Cinderella Obeñita, Miss Intercontinental 2021, and Maureen Montaigne, Miss Globe 2021 at the Novotel Araneta City. According to Maureen and Cindy, their combined pageant journeys was a test of patience and fortitude after a year-and-a-half wait for their respective pageants to push through. Our Filipino queens also brought home the real crowns, not replicas, of both pageants. The Miss Intercontinental crown reportedly costs 18 million pesos, and their back-to-back wins also strengthen our reputation as a pageant powerhouse in Asia. Cindy likewise asked for support of the next competing candidates. Let's listen to what they said.
I think that to be a beauty queen is to be a global ambassador for goodwill. So I've already experienced the difference, the eyes, people are listening to what I have to say, to what I want to do. And I think that's the most powerful thing about being an international title holder. It's the influence, the platform. And we talk about this so often, but to really experience it, it leaves me in awe, the amount of people who want to work with me now, who have eyes on me. So it really is a blessing, and I'm so glad that, we were able to bring home the Miss Globe crown. And I really want this to be one of the most important years of my life. I think I'm old enough, mature enough to handle the pressure that comes with it, and I'm ready to put in the work.
Filipino characteristic that we should show to the world is really relatability, and that's what I showed to the international community, that even an ordinary person can relate him or herself to the queen. Like, this queen knows her purpose, the queen knows her values, and she really shows it in her everyday activities. I think that's what's most important and that we should all be doing every day.
The special thing about Miss Globe is they handcraft a crown for every single queen that they get to keep for the rest of their lives. So this is mine. I know Anne Collis in 2015, hers had red rubies. Mine just they have sapphires. But our crowns are estimated at about 3,000 euros, and they take 3 months to make. They're made of silver, and some of the crystals are glass crystals, but we do have some stones.
I mean, being named as the pageant powerhouse in Asia, being tagged as that, we also work hard for that. You see, I mean, the queens, we all had our sleepless nights, our mental breakdown, heartaches, and napakarami nating pinagdaanan. But we're there. Like, we showed to the world that we can really conquer, whatever pageant we're into. And I think what's really important is you know your purpose. Because once you know your purpose, you won't be... Hindi ka nila basta-basta matatalo. Yun eh. And then also you need to have a very good support system. That's where you matter. So very important that you have these people around you and the support of your family. I just really want to encourage you all also to support the other queens who are competing, because it's really hard to compete internationally, but once you have the support, once you really feel the support of the whole community, then I think it would be possible to clinch any of the crowns.
I like what she said. Thank you very much, Eliana, for keeping me company today here on ASEAN in Focus. You have a great weekend, great and safe weekend.
Thank you, Alma. You too, stay safe. And that's the latest news in the ASEAN region. I'm Eliana Faith Sebastian from EBC Vietnam Bureau, and we live in interesting times.
And we'll see you back on Monday, same time, same place, here on ASEAN in Focus. I'm Alma Angeles. We live in interesting times.